Everybody, it's Super Bowl week. I'm Tony George with Superman Handicapper. That's right, Arun Shiva from DocSports.com. And we're going to be talking some prop bets here today. But before we get to that, there's been some news in the Super Bowl. There always is. And, of course, the line is holding steady at Kansas City, -3, total 56.5. Out here in Las Vegas, we had a $2.3 million wager on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 3.5 at MGM. And then on Monday, a $520,000 wager came in on Kansas City, at -3, -120, and that's where it's holding right now. So the big boys are coming in, figuring out what they're going to do here. But Arun, COVID has struck the Chiefs here a little bit with Kilgore, their center, and Robinson at wide receiver. And my response to that is, number one, when it comes to Robinson, good player, will be missed, but not a deal breaker. They've got 4 wide receivers that can play for anybody. Losing a third offensive lineman in the rotation is a little bit of a concern with that defensive front. The market's not reacting to that in any way, shape, or form right now, Arun, but whether you're Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy, and how great of a play caller you are to get yourself out of what I would consider a little bit of a pickle, having a wounded offensive line against this defensive line, no matter the talent level, has to raise some serious concerns in the Kansas City camp as they head down to Tampa here to play this Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it a luxury to have Patrick Mahomes? You know, to have a quarterback that can move around and do what he needs to do. You know, if it was anybody else, you know, imagine if this was Drew Brees. The guy can't run, right? The guy can't throw the ball downfield. So you're in a difficult position either way. But losing an offensive lineman, well, you know, Mahomes can run. You know what I mean? He can run. He can extend the play. They can do quick passes. If he needs to, he can do a rollout and throw deep. There's other ways that they can do what they need to do just because he's so athletic. So I agree with you. I don't see – and here's the other thing. Andy Reid's been doing this for a long time. He used to have an Eagles team that everybody used to get hurt, and he just plugged and chugged with Westbrook and so many, Deuce Staley and so many of those guys. They just had so much talent everywhere, you know. So I think the difference is going to be that you're going to not going to see a big difference as far as if this was Brady, I think it would be different. I think it affects him a lot more because he's so OCD. But I don't think Mahomes is like that at all. So, yeah, I don't think it affects the Chiefs as much.
Okay, well, there you go, folks. I just wanted to give you an update there. Don't forget, over at Doc Sports, we got a free $60 for you, which means you can get 2 Super Bowl cards for free and then pay $15 for the other one. Because all Super Bowl cards will be out at DocSports.com on Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific, and all Super Bowl cards from any one of the 12 handicappers over there will be $25, and I can guarantee you that all 12 great handicappers we have over at Docs will all have some prop bets sprinkled in their card. So I plan on having a 10 to 12 play card. Side and total will be on there, maybe same game teaser, and then a bunch of prop bets. But we're talking prop bets on this show, and I just want to get right to it. Let's talk about the 2 big boys that are garnering all the headlines this week, and that would be Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady. And if you take a look at, and I got these right here from, I went over to the next door to stations. So I'm going off stations, that'd be Santa Fe, Red Rock, Palace Station, all those, and got this packet full of Super Bowl props. And at the end of the day, most odds, most offerings on the meat and potatoes type stuff that isn't the ones that are tangible, player props, are pretty much going to be the same. Odds may vary a little bit here. But touchdown passes, I'm just going to throw this out to my buddy Arun. Patrick Mahomes, over 2.5 touchdown passes, -35. Tom Brady, over 2.5 touchdown passes, +130. And both those look a little tasty to me, especially the fact that bear in mind that Tampa Bay has the number one run defense in the NFL, about 83 yards a game. I don't see any. I know last year Williams had over 130 yards running the ball against a very, very strong San Francisco defense. They were kind of protecting themselves against giving up the big play last year, Arun. So obviously the run game had some cushion. Minus a few offensive linemen here. Fisher obviously being out at left tackle is a big deal in terms of the run game. Without question, he's first team Pro Bowler this year. One of the best, number one pick in the draft back in, I think, 2016, I think it was, but out of Central Michigan. But at the end of the day here, I think both quarterbacks are going to rely on the pass, and they're going to go downfield to do that. Bear in mind in the first game that Kansas City was 0 for 3 in the red zone and getting down in there when they played Tampa Bay here. But all the weapons for Kansas City are either Mahomes and his receivers, and I feel the same way about Brady. And as you alluded to last week in last week's show, we broke down that you're not impressed with Fournette in the running game for Tampa Bay. So are they going to rely on Brady and Gronk and Godwin and Evans and some of these other guys? I don't know if Brown's going to play yet, but at the end of the day, I can easily see both quarterbacks having 3 touchdown passes, Arun.
So as far as I think Brady might be more likely to, because I could see Mahomes actually running one in, right? And then Brady doesn't want to run at all, and Brady will want to. If you go back and look at Tom's stats, he's got about 4, 5, 6, 7, about 8 games that he went on the over for. But I also think that if you are Kansas City, Tampa Bay can't run the ball. So the person that's going to make you feel like the only way Tom Brady can beat, so they're not going to let Tom Brady beat him. It's you either want Tom Brady to beat you or Leonard Fournette to beat you or Ronald Jones. And I think this team is going to be much more focused on Tom Brady trying to beat them. So I can see them, and I don't think Tom Brady really wants to hand the ball either. So I can see Tom Brady going either way, simply because he's going to want to throw the ball. But if you're Kansas City, you're going to stack, on the backside, not so much on the front side. So, but I do like the under for Mahomes, simply because I think that the way that the Chiefs can win this game is by spreading the ball around and by keeping the Tampa Bay offense off the field. And I think Andy Reid has more options to do that because he actually has a running game and Tampa Bay does not have a running game. And I think that's what's going to be the difference here, is a team that's going to be able to run the ball. So I think Brady's more likely to go over the 2.5. I think it's really good value. But I'm going to take a pass on that Brady prop. But I like the under for the Mahomes prop. The only caveat is if they get behind early, like they always do, then he's going to start chucking the ball. But I like the under for Mahomes for now.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. And I was just going to say, you alluded to Tom Brady, and I think here is a prop bet that you could very easily push on. Total rushing yards by Tom Brady is a half a yard. Now is over that plus 165 minus 210. Tom Brady's 6'5". If they get down on the goal line, they're very likely just a quarterback sneak that in. Maybe it's on the half-yard line. Maybe it's on the 1-yard line. That might be worth a look because that's when Tom Brady would score a touchdown on the ground or attempt a rush. I mean, he may be able to elude a pass rush where he accidentally runs for 4 or 5 yards before he slides. It wouldn't be what I would quote-unquote call a rushing attempt, but it would go down as yards gained running. But I think that over the half's interesting, Arun, because if they do have a tendency, they did in New England, and they have at Tampa Bay. When they get down on the goal line, damn near it, they'll rush him in there.
Yeah, so 2 things. Number 1, Tom Brady's rushing yards this season is 6. But having said that, I would take the over because you don't see it coming. There's no way you see a Tom Brady sneak coming. And I think if it's in the
Right.
goal line, I think they're going to put it in Brady's hand. They're going to do it. And in his defense, if he gets sacked, it counts as negative rushing yards. You know what I mean? So that's in his defense. So obviously, if the Chiefs get 2 sacks, you're talking about minus 12 yards, just like that. But assuming that he doesn't get sacked, third and one, fourth and one, that's what you don't see. And even for a first down, you don't really see it. He just runs. He's been doing this for how many years now? So he knows he's going to run behind some big fellas behind, and he's going to get that yard that he needs. So yeah, I don't mind taking the over on that.
Yeah. Here's another interesting one I think that might have some value. Will there be a missed a PAT? And Bucker has been very famous this year for missing point after touchdowns. And the yes is a plus 210. The no is minus 170. Your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I like it. I think anything can happen in a Super Bowl, and I think just taking that alone for plus value, because everybody's going to say no because they're going to assume that it's a gimme, and it's not, because everything is like a heightened sensation for the Super Bowl. Anything and everything that can happen happens because these two teams don't leave anything behind in their quiver or in their bag or whatever. And here's the other thing: if there's a weakness in the field goal kicking unit, meaning that they'll look at the tape, the special teams coordinator stuff, they're going to find that hole. They're going to get after it. Any sort of thing that can give them that edge, they'll certainly find. So yeah, I think that's good value.
So do I. There's a couple of them that I do. I always standardly take that because I'm always getting a plus number. And like you said, anything can happen. And these are 33-yard field goals. They're not, gimmies like they used to be. There's out of 33-yard field goals, if the kicker hits 9 out of 10 of them, you're going to hire him. So occasionally they're going to miss one of these PATs. And that's one I always take. And the other one on plus money that I always throw a $100 bill on, and I've been able to hit this a few times, is there going to be a safety? And that could include, holding in the end zone, by the offensive line is an automatic safety. So, and that's at 75-1 right now. I've had it as high as 90-1, 85-1, and I hit it a couple of times with a $100 bill on it, which always makes a nice little payout. And those are just fun wagers you can throw 25 or 50 bucks on, and it's like hitting a 7-18 parlay. So just something for you folks to kind of consider there as we go down the list of things here. And there's a lot of fun things to bet. Here's one I wanted you to know. Will there be a score in the first 6 minutes of play? Yes, minus 145. No, plus 115. You got a couple of high-powered offenses. Obviously, over the years, and I don't know the exact number, so I'm not going to give the quote, but Tom Brady has had trouble scoring in the first quarter of the NFL over the years, as evidenced when he played your Falcons way back not too long ago. But I think with these two offenses and the way this game is going to go down, you don't see a lot of push on the over yet, but I think you will as the weekend draws near. But at the end of the day here, I think there's probably pretty high probability. That's why that's a little chalky at 145, Arun.
Yeah, I think, what's funny? You know how many people will lose money if there's no scoring for like the first half of the game? You know what I mean? Meaning like the first, for the first quarter, et cetera. So yeah, I know why it's chalky. But to be honest, Tony, I think this game is going to be kind of lower scoring. I think it's going to surprise a lot of people. I think it's going to be more lower scoring than people realize. I think it's probably going to be more. I think everybody's going to assume it's a shootout, but I actually don't think it's going to be a shootout. So,
okay, that would be a no at plus 115 then, and I think most of the scoring is going to be done in the second half. You can see all kinds of scoring models out there where if they're going to score more in the first half or the second half, and obviously I think this is going to be a second half scoring game, much like last year's game with the 49ers. Let's talk about the quarterback again with Patrick Mahomes. It's interesting. Over and under pass attempts is going to be 40.5, Arun. Over is 125 and under is minus 110. And I was just going to let you know that in the first game they played where Kansas City didn't run the ball that well, he had over 400 yards passing, 49 attempts, and 37 completions. And I just wonder what you think about, at least looking at this, what Andy Reid is thinking. I don't think with the depleted offensive line that Andy Reid is going to be content to pound the rock. There may be passes out of the backfield, short control passes, slants, little out routes. Get Bell, get Williams, get Hilaire out there in the flat, pitch him the ball to avoid a rush, maybe some bubble screen, stuff like that. But it seems to me that number might come into play on the over a little bit based on what's going on with the offensive line. They're not going to set up and try and give Hilaire or Williams the ball 20 times, 25 times here. I think they're going to want to. I think they're going to want to play to their strength, even if it's dink and dunk.
Yeah, what's interesting is the Saints game, right? The Saints game, there was 47 or 49 passes from Mahomes. So I think if you think the Bucs are going to do well, you have to be on this over, because then they're going to have to throw the ball to catch up. They're not going to be able to run the ball, etc. So if you, for whatever reason, and I'm not saying the Saints or the Bucs yet, but if you think the Bucs are going to do really well this game and probably win this game outright, you need to be on that over, because they're going to have to throw the ball to come back. Because that's what happened in the Saints game. Remember, They had to make a run at it at the end, and he threw the ball a lot in the end. So I guess this selection, this choice is really based on how well do you think the Bucs are going to do. As far as if you think the Bucs are going to win, you need to be on the over. But if you think the Chiefs are going to win, you need to be on the under, because then they're just going to run out the clock and run as much as they can and take as much time off the clock as you can.
And Brady's pass attempts are just one pass attempt less at 39.5. So I think that's interesting.
I like the over on that, Tony. I think Tom Brady's going to leave nothing in the bag. I don't even think he wants to run the ball ever in this game.
Right.
I think he'll
be checking out of run calls.
Yeah, man. He's like, this might be my last Super Bowl.
Yeah. If it's 2nd and 1 and Arians calls a die play, he's checking that at the line. He's going to throw. He's going to throw the ball.
You know what this game reminds me of? Remember when Kobe dropped 60 on the Jazz in his last game?
Yeah.
Kind of like that. I don't think Brady wants to hand the ball off once this game. I think he wants to throw. I think he wants every record, everything possible. And I think he just wants to throw.
I think you're probably right. And I don't think Fournette's going to have much success here. Travis Kelce, obviously, there's two great tight ends in this game. I'm not saying that Gronk has passed the torch, but sitting out a year, he's not near the force that he was when he was in New England. Even when Hernandez was there, I hate to bring up that name, human piece of crap, but nonetheless, even when he was there, Gronk was still a dominating force at tight end. But Kelce scored 2 or more touchdowns, so he scores 2 or more touchdowns. Yes, plus 300. No, minus 400. This number surprises me a little bit on the plus for the yes, Arun.
Well, I think it's just based on how many options the Chiefs have, to throw the ball around. But at the same time, if you want value, I can totally see why you choose yes, because at the end of the day, your security blanket is Travis Kelce. If it all comes down to the last drive or last quarter, if you will, who is he going to go to? He's going to go to Kelce. He's going to go to the future Hall of Famer. Nothing against a knock on any of the other guys, but if he's going to live or die, it's going to be to Kelce. That's who it's going to go to. And honestly, for Tom Brady, I think if he's going to live and die at the end, he might end up just going to Gronk and says, we've been on the page. I'll take my chances with a big target. So, plus 300 for 2 touchdowns. I know it's tough, but who else would you take it on outside of him for the Chiefs?
Well, I think that if you draw a scenario in your mind here, realistically, Kansas City against that defensive front of Tampa Bay is not going to be able to run the ball successfully inside the red zone. Not unless it's some sort of a trick play or a busted play with Mahomes taken off. And you're going to like the matchups with Kelce against a cornerback or even a linebacker. in the red zone, and he tends to get open, and he tends, no matter where the ball's at, he has a tendency to grab it and bring it down, and I think that that is a great value. I think that he will be Mahomes' pacifier. I mean, you can't draw double teams to Kelsey in the red zone because he's got too many other weapons. You got Hill and Watkins and Hardman running around, plus a possibly, one of the running backs that you've got to get a linebacker on out of the backfield. So I think that might come
Tony,
into play. Go ahead.
you brought up a great point the other day. Le'Veon Bell, man.
Yeah.
I mean, he's probably going to be featured a lot in this game, and people aren't talking about him. And I think you bring up a great point. I think he's going to be featured a lot.
Yeah, and you might want to take a look at some of his yards, catches, this, that, and the other, maybe even a touchdown on his props as well, because I think it's one of those that might have some value. And don't underestimate Williams in this game either. He is a very, very solid running back, and they like utilizing him. And when they need yards, he's the guy that gets them big time. So just a word to the wise there. Quarterback sacks by Tampa Bay. Now, they gave Aaron Rodgers all kinds of problems. There's no doubt they're going to have a boatload of hurries in this ball game, especially the way that Kansas City's offensive line looks right now on Tuesday as we tape this. Anything can happen between now and Tuesday, folks. This is a long way out from Super Bowl Sunday. But quarterback sacks for Tampa Bay, over 1.5 at -180, under at +145. You think Mahomes tries to hang in there, Arun, and make plays, or you think he just gets rid of the ball and lives to fight another day on this one if he can't elude it?
Yeah, this one's tough. I mean, I kind of lean on the under just because I think he can get away, and I think he understands the value of not getting sacked. You know what I mean? Because if you take a look at Tom Brady this year, I think he had 20 or 21 sacks this entire year. You know, so if you look back on Brady, typically he gets sacked one time a game, except for that Washington game. And Washington has like a bunch of first rounders on that defensive line, which is why they had 3. But other than that, Brady gets sacked only once, pretty much every single game. Mahomes is interesting. I think Mahomes will be able to, unless you try to hit him on the blind side, but I think they're going to be doing a lot of quick strikes against this Tampa Bay team, because I think for as good as Tampa Bay is, I don't know how much Tampa Bay has been challenged, and I don't think the New Orleans Saints are a challenge. You know what I mean? Because I think Breeze just couldn't throw the ball downfield. The Chiefs won the last game by 3 points between these two. But I simply think that I think Mahomes will be able to get away. You know what I mean? I don't. So I kind of like the under because it's a plus money too. But I think the Brady one is far more interesting because Brady has gone.
Georgians have always relied on Georgia natural gas.
Sorry about that. Brady has gone at least 6 sacks 6 times out of his last 7 games has been 1 sack or under. So what's Brady's sack line, Tony, that you found? I know. What's the consensus? Do you know?
While you're talking about that, I'll go ahead and see what that is.
Because I think that. Yeah, because I assume whatever it is, I like the under because it's going to be listed at 1.5 probably. They're not going to list it at 1. You know what I mean?
It's 1.5 at -145 over or +115 under.
Yeah, I like the under. Because if you remember when Brady was in the Packers game and the guy was like 4 yards away from him, but he wanted to get that field goal to win that game, right? To move it to 8 points, and he threw the ball away. The guy was like half a mile away from him, and he's like, doink. Because he's super smart. He knows that if I get this field goal, then we win this game. So, and Brady does not do sacks in general. So I like the under +115 for Brady. Mahomes, I can't get a beat on it because he might try to do too much. I can see him doing crazy stuff. But Brady, I don't see him doing anything crazy.
Yeah, I don't see a lot of sacks for Tom Brady. He knows how to get rid of the ball. And the only thing that gives me pause on that is the fact that Spagnuolo's no dummy. That's the defensive coordinator for Kansas City, for those of you who've been living under a rock. You saw Tom Brady throw a lot of interceptions against Green Bay. You saw him throw interceptions at numerous times during this season. And that was always when he was under pressure trying to get rid of the ball. And instead of throwing it out of bounds, an experienced GOAT, as they call him, tried to force the ball down the field to have his receivers get up and make plays. And yes, Evans and Godwin are guys that can get up in the air and get over top quarterbacks and make catches, with their height and their athleticism and their reach. But also, I think Spagnuolo knows that. He's no dummy. And I think you're going to see a lot more pressure out of Kansas City, them taking chances defensively that could possibly cause that to go over, Arun. That's my only my counterpoint with you.
No, that's good. I think that obviously if you're a Spagnuolo, you have a choice, which is, am I going to blitz this guy or am I going to play cat and mouse with him? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think he's going to blitz him all day. And I think the interception prop is worth it. I like the over on the interception prop because I see him flinging it one way or the other. I just don't see him holding the ball and going down. But I do like the interception prop for sure. And I just want to point something out, Tony. Antonio Brown is playing in a Super Bowl. I just want to point that out.
Oh, is he? Okay.
No. I mean, like the fact that he's here, the fact that he's playing, that he left the Steelers, that whole kumbaya, all that drama, and now he's playing in the game. I just find that really funny. And Le'Veon Bell too. So the Steelers let go of a couple of guys. Now they're playing in a Super Bowl. It's really on opposite teams, but it's really funny.
Hell, Detroit Lions let go of Matt Stafford. He might be playing in the Super Bowl before his career is over. Finally, because he had no chance in Detroit. And if anybody deserves it, it's Matt Stafford. Yeah. So, and by the way, that was a nice job by the Lions picking up Jared Goff and giving away 2 first-round draft picks. Since 1958, you're not going to make the playoffs again for the foreseeable future, even with your new coach, even though you're going to get up off the ground and start chewing on kneecaps. So, that being said, will Tom Brady throw at least one interception? It's yes at minus 155. That's worth the stretch to me in this ball game. Big time. Just so you know. And our last one, we're going to give this out. If Arun has anything else to interject on his end, he can. But you've talked about Leonard Fournette in our Super Bowl preview from last week. Obviously, we had just taken a look at the opening lines and did the show. The opinions we gave, I think, were pretty good. They're not finalized decisions. I'm still not finalized on side and total just yet, especially the total. But you have stated more than one time during this season when we spoke about Tampa Bay that you have absolutely you're zero impressed with the running game of Tampa Bay and Leonard Fournette. And his total over and under in this ball game is 47.5 yards, over 47.5 at minus 110 and under at minus 120. And the only thing I would say is anybody that was determined to run on Kansas City and they knew it, they shut them down. Let's just rewind back to the Browns game in the playoffs. We're going to come in there. We're going to shove it down their throat. Kareem Hunt pissed off that Kansas City cut him after he kicked a chick on film. There's a reason why we cut you. You kicked a girl, okay? Be fortunate that you're playing in the NFL, dude. But that being said, he said he had some unfinished business. The vaunted running game, the 1-2 punch at running back for Cleveland, had 18 yards at halftime and less than 80 for the game. Fournette, 47.5 yards. Seems like an awful lot of yards to me, especially when Tom Brady is going to want to throw this ball all the time.
Yeah, no, I like the under there. And I also, what I like a lot too, is I like the Chiefs over. So I like the Bucs under, but I like the Chiefs over for the rushing. And I think it's because I think the Chiefs are going to be able to run the ball. And how do you beat Tom Brady? You just don't give Tom Brady the ball. Just have long drives. You have such great skill players. So if you're up by a touchdown and you're the Chiefs, why wouldn't you take an 8 or 9 minute drive? You're cutting his possession by a full possession, if not 2. I think they're just going to just be so irritating to these Bucs. And I think, the Chiefs won by 3 last time, but I think Mahomes is I don't see this being obviously too big of a moment because this is a team that came back by 10 points in the Super Bowl.
No.
So this is like this whole like GOAT and everything and all that stuff. It's fine. But the point is that, the future GOAT versus the current GOAT and, all that stuff. By the way, you know what a baby goat is? A baby goat's called a kid. So it's the kid versus the goat. You know what I mean? Which is really funny. I read that. I read that somewhere and thought it was really funny. But
that's kind of pathetic, actually. And trust me, these videos, some of the comments we don't post all. You can leave comments on what your favorite prop bet is. As a matter of fact, I'm going to have a live YouTube chat on Friday, probably around noon Central, about just prop bets. Guys can just going to have a live chat. I haven't done one for a long time in YouTube. So watch my daily videos for the update on that. But, at the end of the day, people get very offended. There's a lot of Tom Brady fans out there, especially East Coast, that leave some pretty nasty comments. That's why we filter them a little bit. But I'm not knocking on Tom Brady. Tom Brady, to me, is the greatest quarterback in the history of the NFL. And you've heard a lot about Bill Belichick and his system and McDaniel's system. Well, where's New England at? They're sitting on their ass, back in Boston. Where's Tom Brady at? With the team that couldn't get out of its own way, defensively did not play well last year, turned the ball over a great deal, mainly because of Jameis Winston. But you took a team that was completely discombobulated, and it took him a while to figure out how to utilize the weapons that he had. But the second half of the season, he put this offense together, and they won some big football games. His defense, as a matter of fact, helped him win a couple of big football games. Especially, I think the Saints game was a lot of the fact they won that playoff game was because of their defense and the turnovers that Breeze was putting up. But the bottom line is they capitalized on them when they got them. They capitalized on those. And last week, 2 weeks ago, Green Bay couldn't capitalize on Tampa Bay's mistakes. Well, they're not going to have that luxury against Kansas City. But I'll tell you what, I want everybody out there to know that I think Tom Brady is going to go down as one of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. I think he's in there with Favre and Elway and Drew Brees as well, and Marino and Peyton Manning and all these guys. He's right up there in rarefied air. And Patrick Mahomes, if he stays healthy, probably will be 15 years from now too. But at the end of the day, right here, right now, if I had to take a quarterback on any team that I had in any game I was in, whether it was regular season, playoff, or Super Bowl, I take Mahomes over Brady. I think he just has more options to win games for you.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this. You have a Packers coach, LaFleur, that got outcoached by Arians.
Yeah.
Andy Reid is not going to get outcoached. Steve Spagnuolo is not going to get outcoached. And Eric Bieniemy is not going to get outcoached. That's the difference between all these other people Tampa Bay has played and Kansas City, who has arguably, it might go down as the greatest coaching trio ever. I mean, I understand there's Parcells and Belichick and that trio, but this trio is really, really young, so we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, except for Andy Reid's a little older. But the point is that this trio is better than the Arians, Leftwich, and Bowles trio. Mm-hmm. So even if Tampa Bay jumps on them early, this trio in Kansas City is going to make changes.
Yeah, and I think that's one advantage that Kansas City has that nobody's talking about. And when it comes down to big game, ultimately in this football game this weekend, folks, it's going to come down to 3 or 4 plays. Whether they're offensive plays, whether they're special teams plays, whether they're defensive plays, a crucial pick six. That's what basically won the game for Buffalo to go play Kansas City, was a huge pick six. When Baltimore was knocking on the door and was kind of taking over the momentum of the ball game. So it's going to come down to 3 or 4, maybe 5 big plays. That whole game, everything else is white noise in this ball game. Who's going to make them? Who has the potential to make them? Who's the most likely to make them? And who is the most likely not to fold under pressure? Kansas City was down in every single playoff game last year by double digits and won every single playoff game by double digits. They're a year more experienced. They got down 9-0 against Buffalo. Did you see anybody hitting the panic button? I think that's really what gets Mahomes fired up. I think they get bored beating the piss out of people. I think it's when they're down their backs against the wall that they perform their best, and that's bad news for anybody that plays them, including Tampa Bay. And bear in mind, in that 3-point win against Tampa Bay, Kansas City dominated 3.5 quarters of that game. They were up 20-7 at halftime. They were up 27-13 late in the third. You bear in mind that it's very difficult also to beat a good team twice this season. But then again, the Buffalo Bills is a perfect example. So I think there's a lot of questions that are going to be answered. It seems to me, Arun, as we close out the show here, there's a lot of questions that Kansas City has answered, and Tampa Bay when you doubted them, or can they do this, can they do that? And I think if it's just more of the same, Kansas City will win out because they just have so much around them. Mahomes does, and hey, Patrick Mahomes could go down with an ankle injury, third play of the game, and Tampa Bay wins by 20. I mean, that can happen. I think if Brady goes down or Evans gets hurt, those two key injuries would hurt them. I think if Ndamukong Suh gets hurt, Kansas City might switch their game plan and run it more versus throwing it if they can get 5 yards a chunk if he's out of the game. So there's a lot of intangibles you have to consider when you're betting these, because it is betting a game and it is live and it is a contact sport. But at the end of the day, I think some of the props that we discussed here probably going to win some people some money, Arun.
So I just want to say one thing, Tony. When you said that it's going to be more, if it's more of the same that Kansas City wins, completely agree. And Bruce Arians is not that creative. Todd Bowles, not that creative. Byron Leftwich is relatively creative. But at the end of the day, there's nothing that Spagnuolo, Reed, and Bieniemy have not seen in their years of coaching.
Yeah, I agree. Well, it's going to be a great football game. Don't forget, again, DocSports.com. Folks, 95% of the stuff on the website is absolutely free. There is a ton of information on the Super Bowl, on prop bets, all in written content that will help you make better decisions and give you free winners. There's videos every day from myself and Arun and Scott Spreitzer, who's kind of a big deal out here in Las Vegas, has been around forever. Doug Upstone. Who else does them? Oh, Raphael Esparza, who sets odds
Vernon
for and Vernon, who's got a very pretty girl doing his. If you've seen Vernon, though, you know why he has a pretty girl do them. So by the way, I'm just giving Vernon a hard time. I've known Vernon. I used to sell plays on Vernon's website. Phoenix Sports Ticket, way back in the day. So Vernon and I go way back. But, yeah, there's all kinds of great information over there. Every single sport, if there is some sort of a ball or a puck or anything type moving in a game worldwide, we probably have a pick on it because we have 12 guys. A lot of them specialize in some of those different sports. Arun, a semi-pro tennis player himself, is probably one of the best tennis handicappers on the planet. WNBA, I know you do real well. What's the status on the WNBA season, real quick, Arun?
It looks like it's happening.
Okay.
Looks like it's happening. It's going to be similar to if there's ever a situation where the NBA/WNBA can do a bubble, it's the WNBA teams that they can do a bubble for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think since there's limited teams, 12 or 14 or whatever, that you should probably bubble them up. But yeah, it looks like it's going to happen. Looks like this, CFL, I don't know. XFL will come back next year with The Rock having it. They're not going to do it this year, but as more and more people get vaccinated, they're going to have more and more fans and stuff. I think it's the Utah Jazz that are going to increase their stands from 1,900 to 3,400 today, so hopefully it'll continue.
Yeah, well, everything's covered over there. So be sure and get over to Docs. Take advantage of the free $60. And that means with Super Bowl tickets at $25 each. You can get 3 of them from 3 different handicappers and probably about 30 different picks for, let's see, 25, 20, 75, 15 for $15. I had to add that up because it took me 6.5 years to graduate from the University of Nebraska. So I have to do my math out loud and start counting with my fingers. But you know what they say in Lincoln, Nebraska, there's the Huskers, and then number 2 is the men are men and the sheep are nervous. So that's where my roots take me from. Arun, I hope you enjoy the Super Bowl, have a profitable one, and keep up the good work in all the other sports. I know you're kicking ass and taking names in a lot of the sports out there, and thanks for coming on. And we'll figure out what Arun, Shiva, and I can do to continue our weekly show. If you have any ideas, leave it in the comment section. What do you want? NBA, college basketball? We'll figure out something. We're having too much fun not to continue to do this, Arun.
It's been fun, man. It's been fun. It's been it's interesting to see how you think as well, and it's nice to bounce ideas off of. So it's cool.
Yeah, and by the way, I want to give a shout out right there. Everybody at the Landing in Kansas City, my favorite watering hole up in Liberty. Hey, root for those Chiefs up there. I'm going to miss all you guys back there, all my buddies back there watching the game this weekend. A little shout out there. That's the finish line buzzer. Thanks for tuning in. For Arun, Shiva, I'm Tony George. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Get over to Doc's. Come get yourself some winners.